All right. Thank you for coming on to Anchored.
Thank you for having us. It's
thanks.
exciting. It's our first time doing a podcast.
I wish to say that my first time as well, but second. First off, thank you again. Like I said, got you something going forward.
Thank you.
I think this is the second one I've given you guys now, I think.
Yep, we can go
Yes.
next to the other one on the shelf. Don't
It's a
be
good
afraid.
verse.
It is. I love it.
Believe.
Don't be afraid, just believe.
Such a key thing going on in your life, you know. So often we think on our own strength, and you know, it's so easy to be afraid and not wondering, you know, what's going on in the future. But it's you know, God's got you back. So
Yep.
you know, just believe and He'll look after you.
That's it. All right. First thing I want to talk about is your recent holiday. Because I haven't really spoken to you about it. Only a little bit just outside then.
It was a lot of fun. So we did 3 weeks in Thailand and Vietnam, which we're a big fan of Vietnam. That was our second time going back. And
Definitely recommend.
just for the food, honestly. We travel for the food. It's fantastic. And a banh mi in Vietnam is like $1 compared to a banh mi in Australia. So you can eat 10 banh mi's and feel good about yourself.
I don't think I could.
No.
I tried.
But no, it's really cool. Our favourite thing about travelling, especially somewhere like Southeast Asia, is you come home with just such an appreciation of what we have here. And you realise, oh my goodness, I am so lucky. I am so blessed. I'm so privileged to live in Australia and to have the things that we have. And what kills me is the people overseas, places like Vietnam, they are so much more content with the little that they have. And it really makes you question when you come back to somewhere like Australia, being like, well, why do we have so much yet we're still so empty? We still want more and more. So it's a really interesting perspective shift when you do visit a country that from the outside seems like they have so much less than we do. But in a lot of cases, they're happier.
No, it's so good. We went out for lunch before you guys left. Went to a Vietnamese restaurant. You're like, oh, I can't wait to go. Like this,
Yeah.
but so much more. And
So much better, so much cheaper.
The
I've really
price
gotta
that
get
we
over
had
there.
That for that lunch, you know, was probably how much we spent the whole trip just on just on food.
No, it was a lot of fun. We do enjoy traveling.
no, that's good. I want to get to Vietnam. I want to get to all those. Like the only Asian country I've been to is Indonesia, like Bali. So I really want to explore if I can.
Yeah. No, it is. It's good fun.
Faith, what does it mean to you guys?
I think it's the currency of heaven to me, you know. Faith, nothing happens without faith, you know. Faith is little as a mustard seed, you can move them out, and you know, that's the way we try and, you know, live our lives, you know. We don't rely on anything on our own strength. It's just all in God's hands, and have faith that He will, you know, if He says something, He'll do it. And it's pretty much come into fruition with us, hasn't it?
I think there's so many different versions of the word faith, like faith as a noun, being like, cool, this is my faith, this is my religion, this is what I believe. And then faith as an adjective, which is to do it, to have faith, to have trust, to have all of these things and actually outwork it in your life, which is, the hard part.
Yeah.
Like it's easy to know what you believe. It's harder to actually do that thing and to apply it every single day, and those days that are hard. So I think a lot of people are like, yeah, I've got faith, but they don't actually have faith. They can say that they do, and then they really, really struggle when it comes to that adjective or the verb side of it. So yeah, faith is everything. God means everything to us. We would be lost. We would not be where we are now if it weren't for God and what He's done in our life. Big Jesus fan.
He's your number one fan as well. So
Yeah, it's mutual.
yeah. My journey has been shaped by you guys a lot this last 12 to 24 months. Like you guys were the ones that baptized me, and like that day still like it was yesterday. It was awesome. I know you guys have done it for other people as well. Like I'm trying to find the right way to word this, but why do you go down that path? Why are you helping baptize people, and like what's your why, if that makes sense?
We love baptizing people. because that's the whole point, right? The whole point of being a Christian is obviously, yes, to have your relationship with God, but that Great Commission is to help other people, to build other people. Like, I think it's so fantastic, just sharing what you have. And for me personally, I feel a very strong calling, not just to tell people about Jesus and to be that evangelical role, but to really build people. Like, once they know Jesus, really build on that faith, go deeper in that faith, challenge them on things. And I think being baptized is a really, really important step. Like, the Bible is pretty clear, repent and be baptized. Like, that's one of the very major keys in having a new life with Jesus. So we honestly feel really privileged that we've had the opportunity to baptize a few people, and just help them take that major step towards a life with Jesus, it's really cool. So yeah, for us, our heart is other people. It is seeing them grow, seeing them develop in their relationship with God, seeing them come into breakthrough, come into healing, come into personal ministry. That's always been, a really important thing to us.
Yeah, I think the next one you do needs to be in summer though, because it was cold during winter.
It was cold. I remember when we baptised Graham in Port Melbourne, I was speaking quickly through my prayer over him because I could barely breathe because the water was that cold.
Yeah.
I actually have a baptism coming up, one of my friends in January, and I've made sure that it's in Queensland and it's going to be nice and warm and hot, so I don't have to worry about it.
That's a pretty cool story as well. Caleb's baptising his friend who he grew up with, and it's probably a good, 7 years in the making?
Yeah, but that's one of those things, pray, and once God gives you a promise, it's going to happen, and it's just about when, and it's, being faithful to God, being like, this is going to happen, and, I stand for it, and it's cool to see, the other end of, God, it happened, it's really cool.
Yeah. Do you feel like going into that story at all, or?
Yeah, we can, sure, yeah.
If it's a good story, let's hear it. Up to you guys, obviously, like what you want to share.
Yeah, of course. Well, this is my friend Elliot there, and, it kind of goes tying back into a bit of my testimony and my past. We were both raised in a kind of a high control group, a religious sect there, and we were raised together. We both left, and certain things happened where we lost our family members, and lost communication and got tied off, and kind of went on two different paths. And I'll kind of just tell my testimony, and then I can tie it back into where he comes into it. But I was a Jehovah's Witness, and then what they believe is very different to what we believe as Christians now. They don't but don't believe in like the Trinity as we would believe it, the Father, the Son, all being one. They believe that there's separate entities there and a whole lot of different things. But I was raised in that as a child, and that meant I didn't have birthdays, didn't have Christmas, all that fun stuff, which made it real difficult for myself. And over that time, I grew up in it, and then I started to sort of fade away as I got older, and met my beautiful wife while I was working. And one of the key factors of that is when you leave that religion, they have like a thing called disfellowshipping, which, when you leave, that means that all your family, all your friends who are still in that religion sort of cut you off and pretty much pretend you're dead. So that's something that I really had to deal with, losing everything that I had. So, yeah.
It would have been hard as well, like knowing that you're not going to speak to your family and stuff like that as well, isn't it? Like, 'cause I couldn't imagine not speaking to my family, seeing my family.
Yeah, I was lucky with my parents, but they were still, would allow contact with me. But, all my aunties, all my uncles, all the friends I had in there, including this Elliot, he, cut off all contact with me. So that was a real challenging stage of my life. I'm so lucky that, Shannon was in my life there at that point in time, because she literally helped me so much through it, because she was one of the only people I actually had. So, at that point it was just, early relationships starting, friendship level, but, from there it's really grown into something amazing.
And just quickly on our friend before we move on to the rest of our testimony, I think Caleb has a really fantastic level of authority and compassion for people that do come out of sort of different religious controlling religious trauma backgrounds, because he understands it because he's been through it. And I think that's a really fantastic thing about when God takes us through and takes us out of struggles and trials and different, hard times in our lives. It's always for a reason. And that reason is usually so that you get authority in that particular area to go back and help other people, because you have the compassion, you have the empathy, you know what it feels like. So Caleb's had a few of his friends now that he's grown up with that's also been through this same disfellowship, and they've come to Christ. And they've seen the joy and the light and the happiness that Caleb's found in Jesus, and they say, I want that too. So it's been really cool seeing him be able to be that to his people in his world that's been through the same thing. He's done fantastic in terms of turning that part of his life around for Jesus.
Yeah, I love it.
So, we met when we were 17.
Long time ago.
Just babies. Caleb had just recently phased himself out of the organisation, and we were working at Domino's Pizza together. I was the manager. He was the delivery boy. A lot of late night closing shifts together. Smell of pizza in the air. Romance blossomed. And at that time, I had recently sort of ran away from home. I was 17 when I moved out of home, just because of different reasons. So a little bit about my backstory. I was raised as a Christian, so my mum is amazing. She's an incredible woman, but we were raised incredibly poor. We had a farm, and when my dad left, we just got stuck in a really shitty situation. So we actually lived in a caravan for 9 years just because we had no other option. And I don't blame my mum for this or anything. I think she did a fantastic job with the resources that she had, and she gave us a really good childhood despite the situation. But there was days where we didn't have food. There was days that we couldn't afford a gas bottle, so we had to eat cold food for the week, or we had to make a fire if we wanted to heat something up. So it was an adventurous childhood, I always like to say. So I met God when I was 7. So I was at a kids conference at a church, and I remember they sort of called out, anyone that wants to meet Jesus, come to the front. And I came to the front, and they prayed for every single person but me. And I thought that I had missed out. I was the very last person out of 30, 40 kids. And they finally got around to me, and they were like, no, you're not last. You'll be first. You'll do great things. And I remember I bawled my eyes out, 7-year-old, cried for hours to the point where Mum just scooped me up and is like, we've got to go. Everything's closing. And I was still bawling my eyes out. And we were in the Macca's drive-through on the way back from the conference, and it just stopped. And my mum was like, oh, that's it, you're done? I'm like, yep, I'm done. All the sad left, we're good. And from that moment forward, I knew Jesus. I had a relationship with him. So all through my childhood, I saw cool things. We weren't a part of a particular church. We just sort of went to a few different ones. So my relationship with God was just with God. It wasn't stemmed in any one particular church. And he provided, even though it was a hard situation, he provided again and again. I can't even count the miracles that he did throughout my childhood. One of them, just for an example, me and Mum and my sister were at the shops, and we counted the money that we had for dinner to go and buy some ingredients. And it started with $6.50 or something. And we get in there, we're like, okay, what can we get for $6.50? And then Mum's like, oh, how much do we have again? So we counted it again. $8.20. Oh, I thought we had $6.50. Okay, let's go, you know, what are we going to get? Halfway through, how much do we have again? $11.40. And it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it would, like, miracles like that would happen all the time. Like, he provided for us. He looked out for us. And then a couple of years down the track, we ended up losing the farm that we lived on. Bank got foreclosed and we had to leave, which was really tough. And we were homeless for a little while. We were bouncing around, staying with friends. And that probably shook my sort of trust in the Lord. And the next couple of years through my early teenagehood was a lot of moving around. Like, we would move house at least once a year. Just a few things happened. And, you know, when you get to that sort of 16-year-old age and you start to push boundaries and you start to think that you know so many things, I really questioned if God was good and if God was faithful. Even though I had all of these experiences, all of this evidence to prove that he was, I still questioned it. So it got to, when I was 17, when I got my license and started getting some money from work, I'm like, no, I can do this on my own. I don't trust that God's faithful because I've seen what my mum gave up to follow God, and I don't think that's worth it. And looking back now, my mum has one of the closest relationships to the Lord that I've ever seen in my life. So from the outside, it might look like that she has nothing, but anyone that knows her knows that she has more than anyone else, because she has such an intimacy with him. And only now, looking back, I can realise that that's worth more. That's worth more than stability. That's worth more than all of these other things. And she has 3 daughters that think that she's amazing. Like, not many people can say that. So yeah, I literally ran away from home, thinking that I can do better, thinking that, you know, I can see what's out in the world and do my rumspringer, so to speak. So then I was working full-time at Domino's and met a young man that we ended up dating, Caleb and I said to him, hey, I'm moving to Melbourne. Do you want to come? And we were probably only 6 months into our relationship at this point. Also, jump in at any point because I can talk for hours. We moved to Melbourne 6 months into our relationship, which was a bit of a gamble. And then 2 years in, we were engaged, and things got hard. Things got really hard. Yeah.
When Shannon asked me, she's moving to Melbourne, at that point in time, we were living together. She said she was going, and I'm like, I got nothing to lose, what am I staying here for? No one, got no family, got no friends. So it was a big gamble for myself just to, uproot and follow her to a new city where we didn't have any family, didn't have any friends. It was a foreign place, and, all in God's purpose, but it's,
But yeah, at the time we didn't know that because we weren't walking with the Lord. We just wanted something new and something different. And I think for a big reason was just to run away from everything that we had grown up in or everything that we were surrounded. We just wanted a fresh start. So we moved to Melbourne. 2 years in, we get engaged. And just after we get engaged, God starts knocking on my heart again. And once you know the goodness of the Lord and once you know the joy that you have with him, there's only so long you can go with pretending it's not missing, pretending it's not there, or sort of ignoring God. So I never denied God. I was just choosing to ignore him and live my own life. God starts knocking on my heart again in 2019, and I end up coming back to him. But now that put me in a pretty tricky situation. So I wanted to live for God. I reconnected with him. I wanted to, go to church, read my Bible, worship Him, live in the kingdom. But I found myself in this situation where I was 1 foot in the kingdom and then I was 1 foot in the world, because I was still with Caleb. I was still living with him, sleeping with him, you know, living this worldly life. And he hated God at that point.
Yeah, I made it quite difficult for you, you know, because of my previous trauma and, you know, thinking back to like the religious status, you know, oh, you're joining another religion. And, you know, I had that hurt and, you know, I was almost like violent about it. I would flip, you know, you would read the Bible and I'd get so angry. I would just made it so difficult for you, and you know.
And there was a lot of anger and a lot of frustration in Caleb towards God, towards religion, which is understandable. And it's funny, whenever I tell people about this, the people that know Caleb now, they don't believe me. They're like, no, that couldn't be Caleb. Like, he's so joyful. He's so happy. He's like a little puppy. Like, he could never be that person. So I always refer to it as the awful year, which is the year between me being saved and him being saved, where it was a wrestle. Like, it was a lot of fighting. It was a lot of compromise. It was a lot of tension and anger and frustration. Like, we would have fights and Caleb would hold knives up to himself. Or
I remember one clearly. I threatened to jump out of the car while we were moving.
and just crazy things. And for me, it was compromise. I knew what God wanted me to do, but I wanted to do it in my own strength. I didn't want to give up what I had in order to follow God. I thought that I could have it both, which is not the case. So, yeah, I wrestled with it for a full year, and it got so bad and our relationship deteriorated so much. At the end of the year, I threw up my hands and I'm like, nah, I choose God. That's it. I choose God. I can't do this. It's too hard. It's not worth it. I'm not marrying this man. And it's tricky because God gave me promises all throughout that year of what our marriage would be and the type of man that Caleb would be. So seeing that vision of what he is going to be compared to what I had at that moment was really tricky. So it's holding on to that promise but still being able to surrender it to God, which is the hard part. So end of the year, I throw up my hands. I say, that's it. I choose God. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to marry you like this. I'm not going to have sex with you anymore. That's it. I'm done. And Caleb went and stayed with a friend of his for a couple of weeks, pretty much deciding if we were going to break up or not. And he had an awful week without me. Could realize that he couldn't live his life without me, and I'm too good. Which is what I tell myself. In the reality, it's God started to move on his heart. So he came back and he came to church with me the first week. We were at Planet Shakers at that time, which is a fantastic church for getting people excited about Jesus and bringing them in. So he came with me that first time, and Planet Shakers is very different to a Jehovah's Witness church. I can tell you that much.
It's gone from people in like suit and tie to pretty much a rave at the. I was very confused.
Yeah. So he came the first time. He's like, okay, that's not that bad. Came the second time. All right, that's fine. Came the third time. He had tears streaming down his face. And Caleb was the most emotionally stunted man I've ever met in my life. Prior to this moment, like he didn't feel emotions very much. He couldn't process emotions just for things that had happened in the past.
Yeah, I went to my dad. He passed away, you know, during that time, and you know, I went to his funeral, and I was so emotionally blocked that you know I didn't even cry at his funeral. And you know, my dad was probably the closest I was to, like, the closest person in my life, and you know, just to not even feel those emotions, it shows how much like God has changed me now from where I was.
So we were in church that third time, and Caleb had tears streaming down his face. And if you've ever been to a Planet Shakers service, you would know normally when they do the altar call, there's heaps, like usually quite a few people that go up the front, minimum 5 each time. And this particular day, Caleb was the only person on that altar, which was really cool. And when he gave his life to Jesus that day, in an instant, the anger, the frustration, all left. It was a radical transformation in that moment. which was really cool to see. Obviously, when you give your life to Jesus, not everything gets better all at once. Like there's a process of sanctification.
Never-ending process.
Never ending. But it was really cool to see that intense anger and frustration just left in that moment, which was really the start, I would say, of our journey together, was that moment. And yeah, a week later we baptized him. My mum came down, and then in my best friend's pool, he came over and we baptized him, which was cool. And yeah, that's sort of where our journey together, I think, starts, when we were walking in the same direction. But it's pretty cool.
I like how you said, like, it was like in that instant how everything can change. Like when you guys baptized me, like coming out of the water, I could feel the difference, like the weight off your shoulders, and I'm assuming it's a similar sort of thing there,
100%.
where you go up for that altar call and
You don't know, you
just
end up not even
instant.
recognizing yourself. It's like, who am I? Because, we're all new creations in Christ. And
it's not like you slowly feel it over time. It's bang, instant. It's awesome.
yeah,
It just works wonders.
Yeah. And then so that was the start of 2020 when Caleb gave his life to the Lord. And then we were still engaged at this point, and we were like, okay, well, what do we do now? And we really felt the Lord saying, wait, like just wait a little bit in terms of getting married and stepping into this new union with each other, because there were still things that needed to be undone. Like when you intentionally step away from the Lord, and just everyone in general, like we get damaged. There's things that need to be undone. There's healing that needs to happen. So we sort of made the decision that we were going to be celibate for a little bit before we got married, just to sort of live as God wanted us to live, which was a really testing time of our life. And I think, it's easy to say wait before, don't have sex before you get married, like just wait. But once you've actually been in that, to then walk away but still live with a person it's a bit tricky.
Well, we're in that routine, of like that worldly life, and then, having to break that, and then, it takes a while to break a habit, and you still fall into, sin and all that, and it was a challenging period of time, and still push boundaries and stuff happened, but
so we're like, cool, let's, max 6 months we'll get married. Again, this is 2020. So COVID happened and we got locked down and you weren't allowed to have weddings. So we had a wedding planned for June or July, I think it was. And obviously it got cancelled, COVID. And we were like, oh, this COVID thing, it'll blow over. Like a couple of months, it'll be done. So we set a new date in September, and we were so confident that it would blow over that we actually got Caleb's wedding ring engraved with the second date in September, which obviously didn't happen. So now Caleb just has a random date engraved in his wedding ring, which is hilarious.
And it's currently not on to the anyone watching because I've broken it. So
Munted his wedding ring recently. Yeah. So yeah, that obviously didn't happen. And then at the very end of the year in November, you were allowed to have like tiny weddings. So we ended up having a wedding in the park with 2 people. 2 guests, so 5 of us all up.
And that was the maximum legal amount.
Yeah.
All standing like 3 feet apart.
Yeah, masks, everything. And it was great. It was great. And I think for us it was God being like, no, just wait this little bit longer. Hold out this little bit longer. Trust me this little bit longer. And yeah, since the moment that we were married, it's been easy. It's been good. Like there's always times that are hard. There's always challenges. There's always, differences that come up when you join yourself to another person. But for the most part, it's when you do things in God's will, when you do things in His way, there's just a level of ease and there's a level of favor that comes with it that, yeah, I could not imagine doing it in our own strength and not having that blessing on it that we do.
I love it. I've known you guys a couple of years now, 2.5 years. And I've never seen anything but smiles on your faces.
Yeah. I think that's the crazy thing is the joy of the Lord. Like, not every minute of every day is easy, but every day we are happy. At least for a little bit, every single day, there's just joy and there's peace. And now I just couldn't imagine living without that.
Yeah.
I guess it's like, because we were faithful through that period of time and doing what he said and waiting and, listening to God. He's blessing us through that with our marriage now being, we're so happy. And yeah, you said a little bit of joy every day. And I find every day full of joy.
Full of joy.
Yeah.
It's probably a bit of a leading question because I know the answer to it. But when has God spoken to you and you've dropped everything to follow it in life?
I definitely have an answer, but do you have one, Caleb, that you want to go on first?
Well, it's probably. Actually, no, you can go first.
Okay.
Yeah.
So about 3 years ago, I was working a pretty cool job. So I worked for Pokemon, and I did all of their products that were here in Australia and New Zealand.
Did you catch them all?
I caught so many. It was a very cool job.
You caught the one that mattered though, yeah?
I did.
You calling me a Pokemon?
You would be Munchlax, just for the reference. Not that you know what that is. So I actually got a big promotion in my work and I was starting to move up into the management team. And normally when you get a promotion, like you should be happy about it. You should be excited. And I wasn't. There was just something in my spirit that felt uneasy. And I remember I was riding my motorbike home from work one day. And the good thing about riding a motorbike is you don't listen to any music. You can't really do anything but sort of look at the road and concentrate. So it was a really cool time that I just got to spend with the Lord each day. And I was just chatting with him on my way home and I was like, God, why aren't I happy about this? Why aren't I excited? And very clearly he said, you know what I've called you to. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? So I've always known since I was young that I wanted to be a tattoo artist. That's always been my dream. It's always been what I felt God was calling me to. And I just sort of pushed it back because it can be a tricky industry to get into. And getting into it means being unpaid for the first year while you do your apprenticeship. And so when he said, I know, you know what I've called you to, we had just bought a house at that point. Like we had just moved. I'm like, I don't really want to quit my nice, stable, well-paying job to go work for free. And yeah, in that moment when he said, you know, then I'm like, well, true, I do know. And it was that moment of that real challenge from him. And it was funny that day when I was praying about it, God reminded me of something I had said 1 week prior. And when we were in church, I was just in worship with him and I was praying. And you know when you pray something and before you go to say it, you're like, oof, this is going to be a big one. Like there's power in the tongue. I know that God's going to come through on this if I say it. Like I call it the dangerous prayers. So I prayed to him. I'm like, God, wash away any foundation in me that's not directly built on you. And for me, that was financial stability. So obviously growing up so unstable, so poor, I had built this dependency on myself, this dependency on my ability to make money, my ability to provide for myself, my ability to look after my future. And having a really stable, well-paying job just fed that more. So when God challenged me to quit my job, I'm like, are you sure? Because half of me was like, yes, I want to do this. I want to chase my dream. And then half of me was, holy shit, this is scary. Like, this is unfamiliar territory. This is unsafe for me. And as someone that's so dependent on themselves, that was a big challenge. But I look back and I'm proud of myself, though, for the obedience. So I probably sat on it for a whole 48 hours. And then I handed in my resignation.
48 hours isn't that long to be sitting on it, is it? To make a life-changing decision like that, just so you know what, this is what you want me to do, I'm going to do it. 48 hours is not a long time.
That's all about that God journey, though. You know, God says it, you'll do it.
Yeah. And I think credit to Caleb as well. Like, he was so supportive in that he trusted my ability to hear the Lord, and obviously we prayed about it together, and he said, yep, go for it. He'll work it out. And he did. So I handed in my resignation, and then I said to God, I'm like, this is you. I know this is you. You've promised me this. I'll be obedient, but you have to work out the details. So there was very much this, again, surrender, throw up my hands. Okay, I'll do it, but you've got to work this out. You've got to work out how all the details play out. And isn't it amazing how you can go into something like with hesitation and you look back and you're like, why was I even worried? Like, God is so good. Why would I doubt for a second? Because he provides exceedingly and abundantly more than we could ever imagine. So I quit my job, and then there was a couple of months that I'm like, oh my goodness, what's happening? Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to chase this. I don't know where to start. And no opportunities came up. And I think that time was really important in terms of breaking down that foundation, breaking down that sort of little castle I had built for myself in Shannon land of financial self-provision. And he really broke that down. And once I got to that point where I'm like, okay, no, I don't need the money. I don't need these things. I truly trust that you'll provide. We live in Sunbury, and there was a new tattoo studio that was opening in Sunbury called Kingdom of Ink. And I walked myself in there while they were starting to fit out the studio. I met the owner, I introduced myself, and I said, are you looking for an apprenticeship? And they said, not really. And I said, you are now? I would like one, please. And they said, okay. And it was a fantastic start. Like, God literally provided me a studio nice and close to home, exactly what I wanted, really fantastic place. And I just walked in and I got it, which comes back to what we were saying before. When it's in God's will and it's in his plan, things are easy. Like, if you're pushing uphill something that you know is not right, then it's probably not right. Like, there's this level of favor and this level of ease when you're surrendered to God's will and you're just walking along in the flow of his plan. So yeah, I started there, and then I worked there for about 1.5 years, and then moved on to a new studio where I am now, which I adore. The people are lovely, the situation's lovely, and I haven't regretted it for a second, making the change. And something that I love about tattooing, like, yes, the art side of things is so fun. You know, being able to put art on people for the rest of their lives is really cool. But it's the people, like the people that I meet every day, that's the reason that I love it. And there has been so many times that I've given my testimony to my clients that don't know Jesus, don't have any experience with other Christians, and times that, you know, I just happened to be the only artist in the studio that day. At the end of the day, like, I've been like, hey, can I pray for you? I've had other tattoo artists that I've worked with come along to church with me. Like, there's just been moments after moments that God's provided this. Because, you know, when you're tattooing someone, you're touching them, you're close with them, they're stuck with you for hours. So, you know, you just get into this natural conversation and they come back and you get to know them. So it's a really fantastic opportunity to be able to speak into people's world. And it's very similar to sort of hairdressing, where once people don't have anything to do but sit there, they just start talking and they start telling you about their lives and opening up to you. So yeah, it's been really cool to build relationships like that with people and then have the position to just speak light into them. So that's the real reason that I love doing what I do.
That's awesome. I've been to Sierra, seen you there once. I didn't get tattooed off yet. My uncle did. I remember going home. My auntie didn't talk to him for like 2 weeks. And she's like, I don't like this Shannon. I've never met her. I don't like her.
That's
But
funny. That's okay.
only because of the tattoo, not because of
Yo.
who you are.
That's funny. And that's the thing, like, you know, everyone has different opinions on tattoos.
Yeah.
Everyone has their beliefs around it, and that's so fine. But I don't think that the Lord looks down on me with my flowers and my Bible verses tattooed on me and, like, cares.
Of course he doesn't.
It's cool going back to that story, you know, where you started that apprenticeship and, you know, we just bought a house and, you know, that stress that was on you being like, you know, how are we going to pay our mortgage? You know, mortgages aren't cheap, etc. like that. And, you know, during that time, we never, you know, went without. We always had enough money for that mortgage. You know, we always had enough for groceries. And so when you like put your trust in God's plan, you know, he provides, he always does, you know, exceedingly and above like everything that you can even imagine, which is it's crazy looking back on that time.
And I think that it's just built more and more trust in him, because he just continues to prove himself faithful over and over again. He is such a good father.
That's awesome. What about yourself, Caleb?
Yeah, touching on that, you can't really beat Shannon's story. It's pretty amazing. Well, one of the things that was really detrimental in my faith journey is, you know, God, one of the very first words he spoke to me was Ezekiel. And, you know, we looked through the Bible trying to find something that like stands out and correlates to that. And it was this verse, Ezekiel 36:26, and I'll read it.
So this was back when Caleb had first given his life to God.
Okay, so was that 2020 you said?
Yeah, around 2020. It says, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. So when God spoke to me about that, you know, that's my old past. I had such a, you know, hardened heart towards, you know, anything towards religion, to God, anything like that. You know, now it goes on to that transformation of like, my heart is actually flesh. I have emotions now, you know, I can feel stuff, and that's where I've sort of built my life on that, you know, the foundation of like the rock compared to being you know, the rock's been taken out of my heart and put it on my feet so I can stand on pretty much. And, you know, it's so cool to see everything that's overflowed from that, you know, our group that we had, all those people, yourself coming to that group, Graham, and it's just amazing. Like, that's what I love, to seeing people grow now in that, like, that space, or coming in as a baby Christian, you know, walking in their faith, getting baptized, seeing what God's plans are for them. Like, that's what I love so much. And, you know, I continue to do that now with my friend Elliot, right? He was the guy that I went and stayed with during that awful year. And, you know, I saw how he lived his life and I didn't want any part of that. So, you know, that was part of the reason of why, you know, I came back and gave this whole Christian thing a go. And, you know, seeing how God's touched me now, and, you know, how you live your life is a testimony. A lot of people see, you know, that joy that we have, or, you know, why you're always happy, or why do you know have these things and I don't have these things. And, you know, that's what he saw in us. He came and visited us recently, and, you know, he saw like, why are we so happy? You know, why has God blessed you in these certain areas? And he wanted that. And he, you know, it led him to start asking questions and stuff like that. And, you know, he didn't really give his life to God while we were visiting like us, but he went back home and he pondered on it and he thought on it, you know, and then God actually came and like met him back when he was in Queensland, in Toowoomba. And it's a really cool story.
A full circle.
Literally a full circle moment where it's, you know, it's key with me because, you know, that was part of me coming to Christ, and then now seeing the other side of like, you know, the impact that I've had on other people, not knowing that, like just, you know, living my life, but, you know, I have my cup and my cup overflows into other people. And, you know, that's part of that call as Christians, you know, to live out of that posture of like your heart overflowing, your cup overflowing, and impacting other people, even if you're not actually having that physical conversation with them. It's really cool.
Imagine you plant that seed, don't you? And
Absolutely.
then he said he went home and he pondered over it, and then like God spoke to him, and all from that little seed that you planted.
And that's the thing as well, like who knows how long that seed will sit dormant for. Like it could be weeks, it could be months, it could be years, but that seed's still there. And I think it's been really cool seeing things like that come to fruition in the people that we love, the people that we care about. And at the end of the day, God just wants your heart. Like the behavior, the attitudes, the different things, they come in time, but God just wants your heart. So it's been really cool seeing some of the people that we love give their hearts and give their lives, because that's where it starts. That's where everything happens. And same with Caleb when he first came to God in early 2020. That's what he did. He gave his heart. And that's why that verse in Ezekiel is so cool, because it is that transformation. It is that stone to flesh, death to life. That is where the real miracle is, in that heart transformation.
I was pondering recently this thought, when you get to heaven one day, I want to see that garden, all the seeds that you plant in your lifetime here on earth, one day you'll get to look back and actually see, all those seeds actually planted and flourished. And it's like, what an amazing thing to actually, look forward to seeing one day. You never know the impact that you have on someone, your work colleagues, people you grow up with. It's literally, you never know. And that's why, don't be afraid. Like it says, don't be afraid, just believe, don't be afraid to show who you really are around the people that are in your life, because they're normally there for a reason. God doesn't just put someone in your life for no reason. Don't shrink back in this society. We're called as Christians to live above that bar, set a level and stick to it. Don't shrink below it. And, it makes a difference. And yeah, God blesses that.
I love the fact as well, like, he doesn't say, like, no, you've been away from me too long. You've taken too long to get to me. Like, he's just, all right, you're here now. Let's do it.
Totally. And he works all things for the good of those who love him. So the time that we spent apart, the mistakes we made, the sin we fell into, that's not wasted time. Like, no time spent away from the Lord is wasted. It's just used for different things. So yeah, you get pretty beaten up in that time. You get pretty damaged in that time that you spend apart, but he'll turn that for good. He'll give you authority in those areas. He'll give you compassion and empathy to go in and speak into other areas, other people's lives in those same areas, because you know what it's like to walk through that season. So for a while, I sort of beat myself up being like, why did I walk away from God? Like, what? How stupid. But looking back, I wouldn't change it for anything, because of the story that we have now and the understanding that we have now, I think gives us more compassion to speak with people that have gone through a similar thing.
You've got authority in that area because you've gone through it. So, you have that power to speak into other people's lives who are going through that area.
That's awesome.
Is the one that I always knew that was stable, was trustworthy, I could count on, I could call her at any moment, because she is such a generous person and such a loving person because of the Lord. Like, she's an avid Christian, and yeah, she's had a really big impact on my life. So when I saw that verse, I'm like, yes, that's one thing that I want to take away from my nan's life, is be generous. Like, what's the point of having things if you're not going to pour them out? What's the point of having blessings if you're not going to bless others? And for us, being financially stable and being in a place of good fortune and wealth is so that God will use our pockets to bless other people. So we are very privileged in what we're starting to build in our lives. Caleb has a successful business now. Tattooing is quite lucrative, so we've started to build up in a position that means that we can pour out onto others. Like, for us, building money and building wealth is never about building our own things, having fancy cars, having big houses, things like that. It's about being in the position for God to use us. Because I think wealth is not about a storehouse. It's about a river. It flows in so that it flows out. And the more it flows out, the wider those banks get, the more comes through it, the more transaction God can trust you with. And it's been really cool seeing him trust us with more because we give more. It's just something that my nan's really pushed on me. Really impacted on me is to be generous towards other people.
It's a great way to build your life from those verses. Like we originally having our house. We originally created that to be generous with our house space. It's always welcome for people to come in for need. Like even recently, we had one of our friends stay with us last minute because he needed a place to stay while he was visiting. His accommodation fell through, and being generous with God's given us that house, and why hold on to it just for our sake? But we're happy to bless someone else with taking that pressure off their back and giving that space to them. And it goes back to even those seeds that we're planting. That's a seed by being generous. He could who knows what's going to happen out of that.
And I think a really important part of it as well is stewardship. So I think you absolutely have to have everything surrendered to the Lord, because if it's not surrendered to him, it's an idol. And for me, money was an idol for a long time. It was a sense of false security in my own provision and not from the Lord. So it took him really breaking us down in that period where, I wasn't working and I was looking for my apprenticeship, that the idol of that broke down. And then when I fully surrendered it to God, he's like, oh, okay, I can trust you now. And I think stewardship's a really important thing. Like you still have to be willing to do the work. You still have to be willing to know about it. Like it's one thing to say, all right, God, I trust you. Pour it all into my lap. I'm ready. Like, just give me this thing. There's still a level of work that's required. Like Pastor Craig, when we first moved into the building that we're in now, he made a really good point like that. I don't know where it's from, the verse, but it's like, be courageous and do the work. Like have faith, have obedience, have boldness, but do the work. Like there's still this level of stewardship that comes with the blessing. Like it's easy because you've got favor and you're walking in the Lord's plan, but you still got to steward. You still got to make good choices. You've still got to be wise with things. And the more that you steward things, the more that you're proven to be faithful with them, the more he'll give you, which is like the parable of the talents. And an interesting thing about that, so the parable of the talents, it's not just more money that people got trusted with. The one that had 10 and got 10 more, he ended up going to be rulers over cities and managers over cities. So the more God can trust you with things like money, things like work, other, unimportant things, the more he can trust you with the most important thing, and that's people, his children. If you can steward over things well and you prove to be faithful with what God gives you, he'll give you the more important things, which is people, which is his children, and entrusting you to disciple other people and to care for their hearts, because that's the whole point. Like we don't want money for the sake of being rich. We want money for the sake of having freedom to pour out and having freedom to, oh, cool, I don't have to go to work today. I can go and, help a single mum, or I can go sit with my friend and clean her house. Like little things like that is the whole reason, like to have resources, to give resources, not just for us to build our own wealth.
Yeah, like that's what I love doing, community kitchen for that reason, just to give back that little bit.
Totally.
I mean, you make that little bit of a change. Just help people out where you can.
Absolutely. And for me, like looking back into my childhood and seeing other people that poured out onto us because they were in the position to do so, that was massive. And I didn't look at that being like, oh my God, this person's so fantastic. I looked at that being like, oh my God, the Lord is so fantastic to work through that person. And at the end of the day, that's what we want. We don't want people, if we're generous, we don't want people to think, oh my God, Caleb and Shannon are so great. they're so, generous, they're so well off. It's no, look what the Lord did through them. Look what the Lord provided. Great that they were obedient, but at the end of the day, it's the Lord that provides. And if we can just be a vessel for that, fantastic.
That's what it's all about, just that surrender and letting God do his thing and being that vessel, and always being willing to, accept the challenge that he puts upon us.
Yeah, like I've experienced your generosity firsthand as well. Like how many times you're like, oh, like when we first met, like come over, have dinner, bring Blake with you, and sit down, have a chat, and you guys put dinner on. It was nice. And last Christmas we went to Okami for dinner, and it was there were 12, 13 of us, and you guys paid for the lot. Like, no, we've got it. Like that generosity really shows through, and it's a testament to how good of people you guys are.
And it's so funny that specific example when we went to Okami. You never know what God's doing in someone else's life. Like for you, it might be clear, whatever, I'll pay for it. God told me to pay for it, end of story. But you don't know what's going on. So one of the other people that was at dinner with us that night, they were really wrestling if they could come or not to dinner because they couldn't find, the $50 to have extra to come. And the Lord said to them, like, no, just come. Like, I'll sort it out. And for them, it was a really big faith thing to trust that somehow they would have this $50 or they would get made up for somewhere else, that they trusted the Lord and they came, not expecting for us to pay for them. But for us, it's like, cool, we'll pay because God told us to. But you never know what's going on in someone else's life, that we could be the answer to someone else's prayer just by being obedient.
Well, that's so good. Moving forward, where do you see your future going?
We'd like to expand more on that generosity, make it more generous the better, really, just nothing in this life, like, it's going to rot away. Like, what's the point of holding on to anything, giving not just money, but, time, our house, anything, just to help someone else's situation. That's what the point of living is, bringing people closer to Christ, or people who don't know Jesus, planting those seeds or opening the door and just showing love on them. That's what life's about for me anyway. Like, more love, the better, helping people search situations, pulling people out of the darkness and bringing them into the light. Like, that's what I want to do with my life. Like, I don't live for myself. I know I'm saved, but I want to, help those people out there that need that help, and just listen to what God's doing, and always willing to listen to what the Holy Spirit says to do. That's follow it like a light. The Holy Spirit's leading me this way. I'm not going to listen to my own self and deny what the Holy Spirit's saying. It's like if he says it, I'm going to do it, and that's what I want to do for the rest of my life.
The more people you help get into heaven, the better.
100%. And I think if you had asked us that question a couple of years ago, what does the future hold? What are you going to do? We could have given you a 10-step plan of exactly what's going to happen in our life, and we're going to do this and that and in this year. And, the further we get down our relationship with God and the track, the more we don't care. Like, yeah, we still have ambitions and goals for the future, but at the end of the day, it's not on us to decide. Like there's a verse in the Bible that says, you can make your plans to go to here and there, and that's fine. But what if God says different? Like, you can still do those things, but it has to be surrendered to the Lord. So I think now, looking into the future, we're just okay with anything happening. Like if we stay in Melbourne, fantastic. If God moves us back home, fantastic. Like we're pretty open to whatever he has for us. Obviously there's still the traditional plans. Like, we'd love to have a family. We'd love to buy a farm, like, goals that we have in our life. But yeah, I find that the older we get, the less control we want to have over it. And the more we're just willing to say yes to whatever he has planned for us.
It's an awesome way to live your life, isn't it?
It's a challenge, but
it's worth it.
It's worth it.
It's worked out pretty well so far, and I'm just excited to look back on in the future and see where God's moved us. Yeah,
for sure. And the little trophies we get along the way, and for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that we meet along the way. And for us, that's people, like friends, transformations, and the people that have found Jesus because of the seeds that we've planted, or even watered. Like someone else might have planted the seeds, and we're just there to water it for a season, because that's the whole point, right?
Brings so much joy.
Mm.
All right. We've just ticked over an hour. So
Time flies.
It does. We can wrap it up here and go get some lunch, and I'm sure as life progresses, we can always come back in and keep chatting about more and more. Like you said, you can talk for hours. So
I am a yapper for sure. I could talk for hours. So I think the podcast suits me well. I can just come on and you're forced to listen to me yap all day.
So if you never need a space filler, Shannon will come on.
I'm available.
all right. Well, thank you for coming down and sharing your testimony and your walk through with Christ, and it's amazing. And like I said, you guys are awesome people. I've known you for a couple of years now, and every time I reach out and say hi, it's always replying, and it's good. Like I said, your house is always open. Actually, one thing about your house, real quick, one memory I've got first time going in is I can't remember what the verse was, but it was a Bible verse about eagles, flying with the eagles. Can't remember word for word.
Oh yes,
On our
over our bin.
yes.
Yes, I said to you, I really like this verse. We've got it written on your blackboard. Was it a blackboard?
Yeah.
You had it written up there as well. It was like the first time I walked into your house. I'm like, that is so cool. Like that
And
connection.
you would think that we know it word by word because it's written in our house, but I've drawn a mental blank. I know which one you're talking about.
Maybe it's Isaiah or something.
It's Isaiah something. Don't grow weary. It's an old song. I remember the song. It's in my head.
You have like wings like eagles or something.
Yeah. It's a good one. Trust me. Yeah. On that blackboard as well, we also have Matthew 6:33, which is just a classic, and also another one that I've got tattooed on me, which is, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all of these other things will be added to you. And I think that comes back to what we were talking about around, finances and generosity as well. Like that was a really pillar verse for us, because it's, don't worry about these other things. Don't worry about the provisions. Don't worry about what you'll eat, what you'll wear. Just seek him. And that comes down to every aspect in your life. Like just seek him. Seek intimacy with him. Seek time with him, relationship with him. And it's not just go to church on a Sunday. That's fantastic. Church is such an important thing. Having fellowship is so important, but it's not the end all be all of Christianity. You need to seek him daily, have that time with him, have that intimacy with him, and he'll add everything else. You don't have to worry about it. It comes down to, all right, I'll be obedient, I'll seek you, but you work out all the details. And that's that verse for me and for us is, just seek first the kingdom.
Love it.
And to seek something, you're not just observing, like you actually have to go look for it. And it's like nothing gets handed to you on a silver platter. Like you've got to actually do the work and seek the kingdom first in your life.
It's almost like a game of hide and seek, but he's not hiding.
Yeah. He's just standing in plain sight, and we're walking around with our hands over our eyes.
You've got a blindfold on. And
literally.
And just before we wrap up, Graham, I remember the first time that you came over to our house when we were running a Connect group, and just seeing the transformation in you as well over these last few years. Like I remember you were quite critical and you were quite reserved about a lot of things. So we would have discussions, and you would be very sort of, critical in a way that you weren't quite sure, what's all of this about. To now seeing the transformation, especially since you've been baptized as well, and just jumping headfirst into this, to doing something like a podcast where you're putting it out into the world and just putting more light and more Jesus out in the world. It's been really cool to see that transformation in you over time.
Oh, thank you.
And we really commend you for being obedient in God, and him telling you to start these things and you just not questioning and jumping all in. Like that's fantastic. And we are really proud of you for what you've done here.
I think you guys are a big part of that as well. Like I wouldn't be who I am today, where I am today, if I hadn't met you guys a couple of years ago. Like coming to your place, I'd go to cricket training on a Tuesday, finish cricket, come straight over for Connect, and it was so good.
I'm going to make some shirts soon when I have a little bit of free time. that just say Big Jesus fan. So if I end up making one, I'll make you a Big Jesus fan shirt.
No worries. If you start selling them, we might even put a link in and
It'll be a whole thing.
love it. All right. Well, thank you. And let's go get some lunch and enjoy the rest of our day.
Sounds
and with
good.
Christmas season here, the celebration of one of the best birthdays, or probably the best birthday ever.
Well, thanks so much for having us on.
Yeah,
No
thanks for having
worries.
us.
Anytime. Thanks.